So this video shows the solution to an assignment in GitHub, which I believe I've got here, creating and running C inside an Orgmode file. However, for the purpose of this video, I have simplified the procedure somewhat. So I'm going to write in the video description here what I'm doing step by step and make the whole thing a little bit simpler. However, this is going to be slightly longer as a video, so brace yourselves. You may want to open your own Emacs editor and go through the steps as I go through them here on the screen. So the first thing to do is to consider what are the conditions for this to work. And the conditions are that you must have the GNU C compiler installed, or any C compiler in fact, and you have to have it in the path so that Emacs can find it. And you must have my.emacs file, the one that I showed in a previous video, loaded by Emacs. In the description you can see links to both of these videos if you need them. So let's get started. First thing is to open a terminal, command terminal in Windows. So from starting Emacs, this is going to be exactly the same thing in between Mac and Windows, but for now I'm just going to show the Windows variant here. So I opened a terminal. In the terminal I type Emacs. This will automatically load my.emacs file, and what you see when you do that is the vanilla Emacs editor. Now this file that you use, this environment, this shell that you use to open it, you may not destroy. If you destroy it, the Emacs will fold up, so you're not just going to just make it hide it. And I don't like to work with the mouse. In Emacs you work with the keyboards, but I'm going to make this a little bigger for now so you can see what's happening. And the things to watch, the two areas to watch, of course, in here in the middle, I'm going to talk about that, but often I also talk about the area down here at the bottom of the screen, below this gray area, where you see messages that Emacs uses in order to tell you what it wants and does. So we're going to begin by creating a working directory, a directory in which we can put our files. Create a working directory with, and I'm leaving out the C-x D. I'm going to just do that. Go to my Emacs and type Ctrl-X D. This leads me to the home directory, which just opens here. Nothing has been changed so far. And now you let this be followed by plus. In this buffer, you simply type a plus sign. And you see at the bottom in the echo area, the message appears create directory. So Emacs now wants the name of a directory. So we type Orgmode. Any name will do that you don't have already. If you try to type in a name of a directory that already exists, like OneDrive or so, you're going to get an error message. I'm going to just try that, OneDrive, and it says cannot create directory, the file exists. Yeah. So we're going to try that again, plus create directory, call it Orgmode, org-mode, and you see the directory appears, and the cursor is immediately on it, so I can just type enter to get into the directory. And here it is. The directory is empty currently. We haven't done anything in it. And you can see at the top, you can see the path from on the C drive through users by Birkenkraut to the directory we just created, Orgmode. So the next thing to do is and the name of the directory. The next thing we want to do is create a file, create an Orgmode file. This means that the Orgmode file has to have the extension .org. That's the main thing here. So we go back to the buffer and type Ctrl-X, Ctrl-F with C-x C-f followed by the name. And the name, for example, first.org, and then enter. That's our command. So I'm going to go down here. I'm going to from Ctrl-G to start from the beginning, Ctrl-X, Ctrl-F, then I give the name first.org at the bottom, and I press enter or return. And I'm in the file. The file is here. In fact, the file is empty. If I If I check this, I go Control XD to go back to my Orgmode buffer. The buffer seems to be empty, but if I press G to refresh, actually I don't see the file because it's actually empty, so empty files are not shown. As soon as I put a character in, like a hash mark, I'm going to save that file and go back to the Orgmode buffer and press G, you see the file. It has a few lines in it. So this is a file that points towards the buffer. So if you find yourself at this point, you can press Enter again to get back to the file. I'm going to make this a little bigger, the font. If you need to do that, remember that font change happens with Control X, Control equal, and then followed by plus or minus or 0 for the default. Yeah, I just did that. So let's put in the meta information. So first of all, the org file needs some meta information. All meta information, that's information that Emacs and Orgmode have about your file, but that when you print it out will not show. Meta information always begins with the characters hash mark and plus. Hash mark and plus is what you want. I'm going to give an example here. We're going to put 2 lines in, hash mark plus title. You see how the color changes as soon as I do this. The gray means that it's recognized by Orgmode as a special keyword. And now I put a value in, and the value is simply my first Orgmode file. Press Enter to get to the next line and put another piece of meta information in, author. Now I'm ready for the org file itself. Now I'm going to make this relatively short. Another piece of meta information is the star. When the star is followed by a space, I type the star and then followed by a space, Orgmode knows that this is a headline. So I can put a headline in my first Orgmode file. So the difference is that when I print it out, this area would be shown in big fonts as a heading, while this information here is only for Emacs internally, just as this. Yeah? So only this part would be printed out. Now notice what happens if I delete this space here, Control D to delete the space. It becomes a normal line. It's no longer recognized as a headline, so I need this. I can put additional lines in, like star, second headline. I can put another one in, third, and so on. Yeah, I don't want to do this now. By the way, to delete this, there's 2 ways I can do this. I'm just going to put that in here in the protocol as well. To undo any key sequence, use C / and do that. I'm just going to show how that works here. So I'm in the file and I press key / key / key / and I'm back. You also notice something else. I'm going to go back, Control A to the beginning of the line, Control B, 1 character back. If I press Enter at the end of this, the indentation is automatically preserved. So these characters here are automatically taken out, and I start in the proper alignment. Yeah. So what I want to do is I want to add some text. And as the text, I just type, this is an Orgmode file with 1 code chunk, and we're going to give it a name. The code chunk is called hello world. I'll explain in a moment what I do here with the characters. Program, it prints hello world on the screen. Okay, that's it. So this is a very long line, as you can see. I'm going to make this a bit smaller. You can see how long the line is. Much too long. We would like it to automatically be indented. In fact, the parameter that Emacs uses to make sure that this is the end of the page is 70. So 70 characters, somewhere sort of in the middle of this, we want to cut off. And the or rather wrap the line. In order to do that, I use the command Alt-Q. I'm going to go back with Control/Alt-Q. Yeah, so Alt-Q automatically indents, sorry, not indents, but makes my wraps my lines automatically. That's the word, wraps my lines. I'm just going to make it smaller. Okay, good. So now what I did here, as you can see, I have something done here. I put two characters in at the beginning, two square brackets to create a link. If you go over it with the mouse, you would see it's a link. Now you don't need the mouse because Emacs tells you with the color change and the underlining that there's a link. I'm just going to put this in here in the protocol to the meta code to the Orgmode code to create a link is square brackets, then the link, the location in the middle, and as you can see, this works in any buffer. So it's square brackets followed by two more square brackets, which I can't type here, unfortunately. I could do that if I was in a. I could do it like that, I suppose. No, that doesn't. So it's impossible to do this, but you can see two square brackets. It is possible to do it, but I can't actually show it here. Two, how do you call that? Square, two square brackets, left and right. So I'm going to do this again just to show you in the text how it looks like. Two square brackets, then whatever the name is of the place I want to link to, and then close by two square brackets, and I get a link. Control A, Control K to delete the line, Control P to go up, Control B to go back. And then there's another meta information, another keyword character here, which is the tilde. And if I put any expression, any string into tilde, it will be printed as a computer font. So one tilde, a bit like this, like the star here at the top, like that is just a star. This is a headline. This is just a tilde, but if I close it, and becomes markdown, and it's marked as a computer font. Yeah. And that's all we want to do. And now we are ready. I'm going to go 2 lines down. We are ready to create the named code chunk. In fact, I should say which one, with one named code chunk. This is the name of the code chunk. Yeah, Hello World program. So I'm going to go down and start the code chunk. Code chunks are enclosed by a different type of keyword, namely begin src for source and end src for the end of the source code. And in between the source code, these meta information, these meta characters, you have the statements. So here are statements in whatever language you use. And on top, on the same line as the begin source, is the header information that we also need. And we're going to begin, I think, with the header information. So the first information we need, Control E to go to the end of the line, is that this is a C program. And it's important that there is a space before the C and a space after the C. And then you click the spacebar again, and you add the information that I want to have a main function around the program. Yes, I want to have a main function. Yes. Again, it's important that there's no space between the colon and the keyword, and that the argument, yes, is also separated by one space. Again, if I get this kind of thing for whatever reason, I can press Control G to abort whatever I'm doing. Quit appears in the echo area. I can go Control E to go to the end of the line, and then backspace or Control B to go one back. I enter another 2 things. I want my results to be raw. I want just them to be printed out as they are, and I would like to get both the code block and the output exported whenever I export this into an HTML file or into a PDF or whatever. There are multiple ways to export files in Orgmode. Then I save it. So this my header just to run the C file is complete now. Now the C file itself consists of very simple code. First of all, a comment, which is print hello world on the screen. And the other one, and notice what happens when I press enter at the end of the line. Because this code chunk knows that I'm in C, it automatically indents properly for C. It recognizes this is a comment character. So this is called syntax highlighting. So it doesn't actually matter where in this code chunk I am. As long as I'm inside, it will be properly indented. I'm going to put the command in. I'm going to explain the command later. Put a string. That's a function. And inside the function, I put a string, hello world. That's what's going to be printed out. As soon as the command is finished, I put a semicolon at the end. And this is now our first very simple C statement. That's all you need to for a program. And then I press enter. And as you can see, the indentation is automatic once again. I delete this line with Control K. And I just save the buffer with Control X, Control S. Okay, so I'm basically ready to execute this now. And to execute, I should maybe put this, just repeat this here. So code block is separated by begins with begin src, ends with end src. You need to identify the language. You need to add a header. The minimal header is minimum is the programming language, for example C, and add the statements, the programming statements inside the block. And I think that's it for now. The results and exports you'll get used to. I don't think I want to put everything in the protocol. That's the main stuff. Now to execute the block, to execute the code block, use the sequence Control C, Control C, Control C, Control C. So I'm going to go back to my block, and anywhere here in the code block, I can execute it with Control C, Control C. I'm typing that. The first Control C will be recognized. The second one will immediately execute it. And there we are. So the result appeared right away here. So this shortens the journey towards having an output from a C program quite a bit. We don't have to write the program, save the program, go into the command line, compile the program, run the program. So a bunch of different steps are cut out. And you will appreciate the more you learn from of C, how much is cut out and how comfortable this really is. There's something else I forgot. I just realized. I said this is a named code chunk, and indeed it is. And I put a link into the name, but I never named the code chunk. To name it, I need to add another line, which is # plus. That's the meta characters for Orgmode to tell it something special is happening. Then name, and now I need to give the name. Hello world program. I believe it can be, it doesn't actually matter if the name has a space here or not. So what happens is if I go to the link anywhere in this program, or in fact anywhere on Emacs or on my system, if I press Control C, Control O, I'll be more immediately brought back to this place. Yeah, I'm going to demonstrate this a bit better here. Yeah, so I'm up here and I want to go, I read one name code chunk and I wonder where this code chunk is. I press Control C, Control O, and I go straight to the code chunk. Yeah. Now let me just delete this region. I've set the mark with Control spacebar and I go all the way up, and delete this whole thing with backspace. And I'm back. I'm going to save this. This is the first result, and we're going to move on to learning how to tangle this code. So how to turn this stuff here in the center into a C file and then execute it on the command line. But I'll do that in a separate video.